Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man! At your services. How are you all? Hope you're doing very, very well. And welcome to another One Good Scare for Halloween. This is number 4. I think it is 4. And yes, it is 4. The Hills of Eyes from 1977. Wes Craven. Already, of course, celeb after it. The Last House on the Left. That's a film I still cannot stand to watch even to this day. And this film in particular, my mate Paul, he said that the scene in question, the scary moment in this movie, when he first watched it, he didn't get past this scene. And he didn't return. He was like, that's it. I've had enough of this. Nope, can't stand it. He was only young at the time, but he was traumatised by it. And only returned to the film many, many years later on and discovered there was even more shocks later on in the movie. I love this movie. I love it. So, Paul, this one's for you. Now, this is the story, Wes Craven's sort of modern-day take on the legend of Sawney Bean, the famous Scottish cannibal living on the west coast, living in a cave with a huge tribe, his family tribe of feral cannibals, picking off travellers on the unwary, going on the coastal paths. Finally, they were caught. And they were horribly, horribly tortured and executed by the English government. And Wes Craven always thought, well, that's a great story there. You've got the savages, and then you've got society, the civilized, that are then reverting to savagery to enact revenge on these horrible people. And it's that weird dichotomy. At what point does someone with morals and values, what point are they pushed beyond before they have to fight back and resort to equal barbarity, if not worse? So his film, The Hills of Eyes, written and directed by Wes Craven and produced by Peter Locke, who has a cameo role in the film, which we'll discuss. It details the story of the Carter family, an extended family who are travelling from the east coast of America, going to California, the big Californian dream. And Big Bob, played by Russ Grieve, he's a retired policeman. And he's big, he's tough, he's been around the block, but he's retired now. And they're heading across with his wife and his son and daughter. Is it 2 sons and a daughter, and the older son's wife, I think it is. Let's not bog ourselves down with family details. And they encounter a little dilapidated gas station in the middle of nowhere, run by Fred, grizzled old Fred. And they get some gas, and he say, listen, you've got a nice family there, just stay on the road, a bit like American Milk, stay on the road, keep up the hills and the mountains and all that sort of stuff. It's not safe around here, just keep driving. Anyway, off they drive, and a little jackrabbit, a little bunny rabbit hops in front of there. They've got a station wagon and the camper trailer behind them being towed. Big Bob swears to avoid it, and they smash the axle. They're stranded. Oh God, no! In the hot Mojave Desert. I mean, this is filmed in the Mojave Desert. I don't know how many miles away from LA that is, but it was meant to be 120 degrees in the daytime. 120 degrees, and then of a nighttime it would drop down to 20. Maybe 30 if you were lucky. So scorching hot of a daytime, freezing cold of a nighttime. Welcome to the desert, folks. Anyway, so they're all there. They're stranded in the middle of nowhere. So Big Bob says, look, I'm going to walk back to Fred at the gas station, and I'm going to, try and get some help. And Doug, who's I think the older brother, played by Martin Spear, and who looks just like Sonny Bono in this movie, and he's happily married to the great genre icon that is Dee Wallace from The Howling, Cujo, E.T. Oh my God, Dee Wallace. Big Bob goes off to the gas station. Doug goes in the other direction to see if they can get help. They leave Bobby, played by what's his name? Hang on a minute. Robert Houston, who's you've got Big Bob, who's the big family, patriarch. And you've got Bobby. They leave Bobby to look after the women folk at the dilapidated, crushed, crashed trailer and station wagon. And he gives him a 1911 Colt automatic, a 45 automatic. So you'll be all right. Well, what have you got, Big Bob? Well, I've got this 357 Colt Python, I'll be fine, don't you worry. So off Bob goes. Now, we already know that, well, The Hills of Eyes, Michael Berryman, one of the most famous poster boys from the 70s and the 80s, in many, many exploitation flicks, and one of the nicest guys you could ever hope to meet, as it turns out. But also great at playing freaks and mutants, because he was sadly born with an alarming number of birth irregularities, let's call it that. Multiple operations on his skull because his skull hadn't formed properly. And although he's a really lovely, lovely bloke, his face sort of lent itself to playing bad guys in movies. And he's made a great career out of it. And he plays Pluto in this. So anyway, we've already discovered that there is something amiss in these hills, in this desert, because right before the Bob Carter, I couldn't even say the words, Bob Carter and his family arrived at the gas station, Fred's had a little run-in with Ruby, played by Janice Blythe. And she's one of the cannibal girls from this tribe who are living in the hills, the cannibal family that are out there. And she's had enough, she's sick of eating dogs and, people getting lost in the desert. She wants out. She's got bigger ideas. But as Fred says, Jupiter's not going to like that. Papa Jupiter. No, Papa Jupiter won't like that at all. So you better run back, go back to them. God, don't let them know you came near me. Because obviously Fred knows all about this family living out there in the hills. And when Big Bob does get there, in a really, really creepy sequence, which is what Paul was saying, he goes, I was so unnerved by it. Big Bob is on his own, and you hear the desert wind. It's nighttime now, and Big Bob approaches this old run-down gas station, which apparently was a real gas station, which Wes Craven and Peter Locke found out in the desert. And you can hear the wind, and it's whistling. And Big Bob walks up. There's an old kettle on a stand, and it's the wind howling down the spout. He puts his hand over it. Eeriness. And then he goes into the gas station, and he hears some kind of struggle, some kind of kerfuffle, and then a gunshot's fired at him. So he whips out his gun, bang, fires a shot. A door slams shut. He hears some kind of struggle taking place. Gets the door open. Because Big Bob's great. He's been around the block. This is a guy that has worked in the inner cities. He's an experienced guy. He's a law enforcement officer. Retired. And he gets in there and he's got his gun out like that. And there's Fred hanging there. Oh, it's like, what are you doing, you daft old buzzard? So he gets him down because Fred's trying to hang himself. What are you doing? He goes, You're trespassing. Do you always try to stop trespassers by hanging yourself? It's a great... Typically with Wes Craven, even with really, really nasty, barbaric stuff taking place, which we're going to get onto, folks, don't worry. There's always a bit of gallows humour there as well. Even going to look at Freddy Krueger and Nightmare on Elm Street, and all that sort of stuff, and Scream. Huge amounts of humour is ladled into these movies. So, by hanging yourself? So, mister, you're in big trouble. Where's your family? Well, we broke an axle, they're miles away now. Don't worry, they're okay. They're not okay. What do you mean? Listen, mister, I've got to tell you something. And then he begins with this story, the legend. Because old Fred is the father of the big bad Papa Jupiter who runs this cannibal clan out in the hills. As he describes the story, he's saying about, me and Martha, we came out here many years ago. We had a little girl. Hang on a minute, no, we had a son. Let's get this the right way around. We had a son. He was so big, came out sideways. He almost tore poor Martha in half. Pretty soon we found things going wrong, dogs going missing, chickens with their heads bit off, stuff like this. But we had another baby on the way, a little baby girl. But Fred goes out to town, and when he comes back, the whole house has been burnt to the ground, and this little baby girl she was just cinders, But this monster child, there wasn't a scratch on him. I knew he'd done it. I took a tire iron and I split his face wide open and I dragged him out into the desert and I left him there. I figured he wouldn't last more than 2 hours out there in that heat. I was wrong. He was out there long enough, a monster child to grow into a monster man. He took a whore from the town that no one would miss, and he raised a brood of these feral cannibal kids out there. And Bob was like that, shit, my family's out there, And so he's out there, and it's his son, Papa Jupiter, played by the great James Whitmore. James Whitman. James Whitmore was in the classic creature feature Them. And he's out there and he empties a bag of all bits of knickknacks and stuff and Big Bob's like, what's all that? Oh, it's just some stuff. And as he leans to pick up these ragtag assortments of stuff, suddenly that big window that he was standing in front of crashes through as a huge ghoulish figure just comes in, smashes through, picks up Fred and puts him under his arm and then runs off into the blackness of the night. Oh my God, and Big Bob's like that, just stunned. Jesus Christ. And so are you. That crashing through of the window and the picking up of Fred and putting him, it's almost like an ogre. It's like Beowulf and Grendel picking up, a Viking or Saxon warrior from the great mead hall and running off with him. It's a truly terrifying sight. The impact of the window going through and the sheer size of the guy that leans through and picks up this little old fella and then runs off, and then the night just swallows them up. Big Bob's just stunned. At that point, as Paul said, he said, I was out of there because I leapt about 10 foot up and it took me months to come back down again. He said, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't get that image out of my head. And I know exactly what he means. When we first started talking about it, that's one of the big shocks in the movie. And it's done really, really well. It would be mimicked in Friday the 13th Part 2 when Freddy Krueger, good God almighty, there's so many killers and psychos and monsters. They all blend into one. When Jason crashes through the window again and picks someone up, oh my God, and you see his disfigured face and all that. Very similar sort of shock. And of course, in Nightmare on Elm Street, Wes Craven would have Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger crashing through Nancy's bedroom door with a mirror on the inside. I've talked about that scene a lot because what happened to Paul when he was leapt through the rafters of his house whilst watching it, the same thing happened to me in the cinema when I first saw Nightmare on Elm Street. Whoa! About 40 feet in the air. Like a trampoline superstar I was when Freddy come crashing through that. Anyway, he's dragged old Fred off to one of the barns and he's got the tire iron, the very thing that Fred had used to split his face wide open. And now we see him with this huge big cut down his face and a gash across there. And it's got all bones and teeth and necklaces, very tribal. And he starts beating the skull of his dad. That's his dad. Bang, bang. And then this goes, into the camera like that. And you're like, Jesus. Big Bob runs out. He's creeping round. Lots of, creaking and stuff going on. Opens a barn door and there's Fred. Fred's been impaled with the tire iron. I don't know how you managed to do that. That takes some force to put a tire iron through someone and pin them to a barn door. But there he is. Things are only going to get worse. Because Big Bob then, he's an older guy, don't forget. He's retired. He knows that story was true. That must have been Jupiter, this nutcase, cannibal. Got to get back to the family. So he starts running back through the darkness, trying to get back. But in the meantime, you've got Papa Jupiter, who's just killed his dad, taunting Big Bob, because Big Bob's now, and his heart, he's an older guy. And Jupiter seems to know that. He's like, come on, daddy, come on, get me. And he's taunting him. And Big Bob's like, you son of a bitch. And he hits the deck, and And he goes, I'm over here, I'm over here. So Big Bob fires, bang, bang. Then you hear, oh, you got me. And yeah, Big Bob's like that. He drops the gun. And then from the other direction, these dusty boots just come out of the shadows. Because Jupiter wasn't over there, he was over there. Daddy, your gun? Daddy, your gun? Oh, God, it's just, you're like, oh, no. And poor Bob's like that. And he was the guy, you thought, this guy, he's dependable. He's solid. He's going to look after his family. Uh-oh. Jupiter gets his gun, gets out a walkie-talkie. And they're like, we about ready. Because he's now calling the rest of the clan to arms because they've got prey out there in the middle of nowhere. And now they can launch their campaign of terror, torture, mayhem, abduction, and cooking, you know. Poor Bob gets crucified to a Joshua tree, as it turns out. And that, again, it sounds really, really nasty, and it is nasty, but this is one of those films where a lot's implied. You do see a lot of violence in it, but it's not lingered on. The impact is there. It's very definitely a savage, barbaric movie. But it's not like a little Lucio Fulci movie where it's got lots of copious claret spraying everywhere and intestines coming out. It's not like that. It's very impactful. It's very, very brutal, but it's not gratuitous. But poor, talk about overkill. Big Bob crucified to a Joshua tree. Can you hear the rain thundering down now? Great, And in the meantime, Doug has come back he's found a big army PX depot miles up the other way. In the meantime, they've got two dogs, two fantastic German Shepherd dogs, Beauty and Beast. Beauty has been killed and gutted, and young Bobby has gone out after to try and find it because the two dogs have just split off, and he's found the remains of Beauty in the meantime. But around him, again, another member of the cannibal clan is making rustling noises and strange, guttural sounds. Bobby gets spooked, takes a tumble down. The heavens are trying to interrupt. They're trying to tell me something. I don't know. Trying to tell me to get the roof fixed, probably. And Bobby takes a tumble down the rocks. He's got scratches on his face. He arrives back at this now. This is the ranch. The broken axle, the station wagon, and the crunched up trailer that they've got. Old Mum's in there. Karen, the sister, played by Susan Lanier, who, my God, she can scream. Has she got some lungs on her, this girl? Bobby turns up there. He's not going to tell everyone what's happened. Oh, the dogs are out there somewhere, but he knows something's going wrong. Doug gets back. This is Sonny Bono, gets back from the PX. Look at all kinds of stuff out there. Look at this. What are we going to do? We're going to go back there, get a load of it. We're going to open up an army surplus store. What's wrong with you? He's saying to Bobby. Well, for one thing, Dad's not back yet. Oh, hey, I wouldn't worry about Big Bob. He had a lot further to go than I did. He won't be back for another hour or so at least. Don't worry about a thing. Anyway, as they all get there and they're all sort of regrouping, Bobby finally confesses in a great moment where Robert Houston, I've seen him get a lot of flack. He was saying he's so amateurish, his acting. You couldn't be further from the truth, anyone who says that. His delivery, his shock and trauma, his rage when it happens, his fight back, all very convincing. When he breaks down and tells what's his name, Doug and Dee Wallace, Beauty's dead. What? What do you mean Beauty's dead? And Robert Houston as Bobby manages to produce a huge snot ball which flies out of his nostril. When you cry, your nose runs as well. It's convincing. It works. And the way his voice remodulates, he squeaks some words out. He tries to regain his composure. I think he does a bang-up job at this. And I've sung his praises before because I reviewed this movie a long time ago in a different lifetime when I was working for AV Forums. I wrote a massive film essay on this, and which pretty much I thought was my final word on it until now. and I think he's extraordinarily good in this movie. Anyway, so now you know that there's something even worse out there. Bobby's also heard a dog out in the distance and gone out there, but it's another member of the clan who can mimic sounds, and he starts mimicking the dog. He starts mimicking like a pig grunting. Then you hear like a chicken or a rooster or something, and then you hear like something like a tiger, and Bobby's out there. He's going, "Come on, beauty," or "Come on, beast," whichever one it is. Come on, but he realizes in the darkness that there's someone out there who's taking the piss, and he's like, yeah, it's great. It's really well achieved. Shivers up and down his spine, and you can see a shadowy face with pointed teeth in the bushes, sort of laughing at him. Bobby goes back and explains all this to them, and then just when you think, oh look, like let's all gather our forces together here. Boom! Big explosion. About, I don't know, a quarter of a mile away. Just like a massive plume of fire goes up, and that's Big Bob being set on fire. He's been crucified to a Joshua tree and then set on fire. And what that's doing, that's luring out some of the people from the camper. So they come out there, they find him, they're trying to put out the flames. Poor old Mum, played by Virginia Vincent, who's great in this. It's just like, that's not my Bob. That's not my Bob. As little curls of smoke are wisping out of his blackened face, out his charred lips. Like, he's still alive at this stage. And like, they're just in shock. In the meantime, Pluto, Michael Berryman, and Mercury, they're all named after planets. Mercury, played by Lance... Hang on a minute. When is it? Lance Gordon. You think that guy's scary. You think Papa Jupiter's scary. But Lance Gordon as Mars, the god of war. Oh my god. And his teeth are filed down to pointed fangs. Loads of them. They break in to the camper. Now you've got a baby. You've got Doug and Dee Wallace. I've got Susan, I think her name is. I've got a baby. No, hang on, Karen. Susan's the daughter. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. It doesn't matter. But it's a little baby in there. Oh no, a little baby. And of course, they want that for the cooking pot, don't they? Oh dear. So they break in there. Pluto tries to rape the daughter. And as he's riding on top of her and they're fighting and tussling, Mars comes in. Mars finds a parakeet, rips its head off and drinks it like a cocktail, and then wipes the blood from his lips. Then he sees what Pluto's up to and he drags him away, and he's got the gun now. That big Colt python that the Big Bob had has now transferred from Papa Jupiter to Mars, has got it now. And he throws Pluto away. He's like, no, you wait till you get to be a man. And then he is going to rape the poor daughter. But he sees the baby first. And he goes, and it, it's a darling little baby, little bambino. And he goes, baby's fat. You fat. Fat and juicy. Oh, sweet Jesus Christ. So he then rapes her. Oh, you don't see a great deal there, thankfully, but he rapes her. The tension is rising. This is almost a fever pitch already. And then Mum comes back and Dee Wallace come back, but they find Mars has got the baby. So Dee Wallace is like, give me back my baby. And I give it back. So they start fighting. The baby is on the floor. He manages to smack her down. But the other daughter is crawling down, who's been badly raped, and she manages to throw a knife, one of the cannibal clan's sidearms, down towards Dee Wallace, who picks it up and rams it into Mars's thigh. Ah! Blood spurts everywhere, but he's got the gun. Bang! And he manages to blow Dee Wallace away. He also shoots the mother, who's been hitting him with a broom. Bang! Pops her, down she goes. Carnage everywhere. He then goes and grabs the other daughter by the hair. Come here. And gets her outside and puts the gun in her mouth in a one of the most notorious images from this movie, from all the publicity, was that the barrel of the gun being wedged into her mouth. Looks shocking, is shocking. But just as he's about to do it, click, it's empty. And all the men suddenly arrive in there quickly. So he just throws her down. I come back for you later, Curly, he says. Oh, he's fucking terrifying. Genuinely is. Bobby pings off a few rounds from the 45, missing him altogether. And they discover the carnage in the camper. Dee Wallace is dead. The parakeet's been ripped in half. And speaking of ripped in half, they have a Jaws poster. This became a rather sort of tit-for-tat thing between Sam Raimi and Wes Craven. There was a Jaws. It's not actually a Jaws poster. It's a poster of a great white shark. But everyone goes to the Jaws poster. But it's been ripped in half. Wes Craven always said, well, okay, I've done that because you all think Jaws was terrifying. You don't know what terror is. This film, my film, Hills of Eyes, is terrifying. So to symbolise that, he rips the Jaws poster in half. So in Evil Dead, you have down in the basement, in a cabin in the woods, why the hell there would be a Hills of Ice poster down there? But it's just part of the fun. And you get that poster ripped in half. Wes Craven saw the joke. So in Nightmare on Elm Street, you've got, is it Johnny Depp is watching The Evil Dead on TV, and he just just turns it off. The tit for tat that went on. But it's a great little moment anyway. But that sequence, everyone who jumped out their skin when Papa Jupiter came through the window and plucked up his dad and ran off into the shadows to murder him. Everyone who was terrified of that, but got past it. Jesus H. Christ. The big scare was that sequence. That sequence, Wes Craven ramps up the tension. It's the first time you see these people. You've seen Papa Jupiter, and you've seen the explosion going off, and you know that they're violent and horrible, and they're cannibals. But when you see him, and when you see Mars with his jagged teeth, and the way that Mars speaks, and he's big, and he's got, and this mad caveman hair, and that's coming from me. It's so electrifying, and it seems to go on forever. Now, I saw this film in the cinema, not on its initial release in 1977. I saw it on a re-release round about 1980. But I do know someone, a lady, she was a young lady then, not so young now, that on the film's first release in the UK, and she went with a big gang of people, and I know what she did. When that sequence with the baby because they do run off with the baby, and back to their little cave dwelling, and they're going to cook that baby, and they're going to eat Big Bob, because he's already been barbecued, but they managed to get Bob's body back to there as well, to their abode. Well, Joy, at the end of that sequence, this particular lady, whose name was Sue, by the way, stood up in the middle of the audience and condemned everyone. She went, "You're all fucking sick! You're all sick! All of you!" And stormed out. True that. And but it's a horrible moment. In the 70s, the shock moments, obviously, like, we're going to probably cover a few more of these in these scary moments for Halloween, or one good scare for Halloween, whatever the bloody title of this series is. Texas Chainsaw, The Omen, The Exorcist, obviously Evil Dead, Halloween, Suspiria, Jaws, all these big shock stuff. This really did, hit a real sort of high point in tension, suspense, and just trauma. Because it's the family being destroyed. It's a home invasion. The women are being hurt and brutalized. A baby is abducted. A parakeet is decapitated. A Jaws poster is ripped in half. It really does hit you where it hurts, and it's a lingering pain that you feel as well. Obviously, poor Doug his wife, Dee Wallace, is dead, shot in the stomach, and even the way that Wes Craven films the shooting, it's genuinely horrible. And Mum is still alive, but she's not got long to live, and they're trying to keep her going. but they've got to, we've got to try and fight back. We've got to try and defend ourselves. They've been here once. They're going to come back again. And I've lost my baby as well. Poor Doug lost his wife and he's lost his baby. He has to get the baby back. So this is where the thing turns full circle now. You're going to get, you've met the cannibal clan. You know what they're capable of. Now the good guys are going to have to resort to similar tactics just to survive. So you've got sort of cutting edge, grueling survival horror. Cut from the same cloth as Deliverance, as Texas Chainsaw Massacre even. And interestingly, Bob Burns, who did the art production for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, with all the bones, the teeth, all the skins, all of that horrible stuff that's in their house. Well, Wes Craven brought him on board for this. So the cannibal's cave is bedecked with the same vertebrae, spines, skulls, teeth, bones, flesh that was in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And all the cannibal clan themselves are bedecked in necklaces of bones and teeth and all sorts of horrible bits and bobs culled from, victims' bodies. Cheers, y'all. In the meantime, Beast, the other German Shepherd, he's not happy. He's lost his beauty. His mate is gone. I said about Peter Locke, who's the film's producer. He has a cameo playing a little nerd, the nerd of the cannibal clan called Mercury. He's a little bit of a feeble one. Like he's a lookout on top of a cliff top, and they've got these walkie-talkies. Obviously, they've taken them from the Army PX way before, so they're quite well equipped. This cannibal clan, and he's going like, have you got the baby? And they're going, yeah, we've got a baby. Yeah, and they're showing the baby. Yeah, we're gonna eat well tonight. Maybe I make a joke like last time. I eat their toes. You gonna laugh at that? Do you think everyone laughed at that? We always laugh at you, Mercury. And Mercury's waving to them like, right, coming back in a minute, sort of thing. The Beast has come up behind him and just trotting down. And then he turns around, fucking Beast knocks him flying off the cliff. Boosh! He's gone. That's one down from the cannibal clan. And Beast will do a lot more damage as well. So what you've got now, they've got the baby. They've got Big Bob Barbecue, and you've got Jupiter, Papa Jupiter, and he's ridiculing Bob's horribly burnt face, and he's eating Bob's arm at the time. Again, you don't really see a great deal of this, but it's enough to make you go, oh no, you come out here, stick your life in my face, I'm gonna watch your car rust, I'm gonna eat the brains of your kids. I'm gonna beat the brains of your kids. And honestly, he's horrible. He's a very nasty piece of work. So, but you've still got Janice Blythe as Ruby, who's part of the cannibal clan, but she's clearly got a bit of a heart, and she doesn't want to hurt anyone, and she wants to save that baby. So Doug and Beast mount a man and dog campaign to go and get the baby back, leaving Bobby and... Is her name Susan or is it Karen? I really can't remember what what his sister's name is. The girl that got raped. And in the meantime, the mother's died. Bobby is on the CB radio and he's trying to call for help. And then a voice comes over the air. It's a great sequence. A voice comes over and says U.S. Air Force. We're a rescue team. What are your defensive capabilities at this time? We've one gun, we've hardly got any ammo, we've got no food, no hunting rifles, we're just sitting ducks out here. What do you recommend? Well, just until we can get to you, we recommend that you stand on your heads. And Bobby's gone, stand on our heads, right? That's code for, you stand on your heads with your thumbs up your ass. And they realise, oh shit, we've just told the enemy that we've got no fucking weapons apart from one gun and hardly any bullets, and we've got nothing else. Oh shit. And this Pluto is going like they're sitting ducks, right? And Papa Duke's like, we're gonna go in, because they've now realised that they've lost one of their own, that Mercury's been killed. So it was like, that's it, now we're gonna take them all. So Bobby's like, oh shit, I've just told him everything, but in a bit of sort of I don't know, MacGyver style sort of, traps and booby traps and stuff. They set up these guys for a real bad comeuppance. They put Mum out on a little deck chair, way out from the camper, and they've taken off one of the wheels from the crashed station wagon, and they've rigged up some kind of rope lasso thing. So when they turn the engine on, they've got like a noose, a sort of tripwire, which is gonna, when Papa Jupiter comes in to inspect this strange old woman who's just sitting in a deck chair, and he's like that, he can't work it out. Suddenly, Bobby just hits, the ignition, and this, obviously, the thing spins round. The thing, you can tell I don't drive a car, spins round, and he gets lassoed up, and it gets dragged across the dirt. But then it just packs up, and suddenly Jupiter gets up, like, and they're like, shit, he's still alive. So they get into the camper, but they've put some matches on the inside of the door, and a little sort of, the ignition strip, taped it all up like that, and turned on the gas in there, and then got out the window. They've still got the gun with like 2 shots left in it. And Papa Jupiter gets up there and he bangs against the side of this thing, like he can smell something, and it doesn't seem right. We cut back to where they are. They've hiding behind bushes. Suddenly, after like quite a few seconds from a distant shot, the whole thing goes up, warm, massive fireball. So they've got him. Yes, they've killed Papa Jupiter. So they leg it in there. I've got to find his body. And like the girl's going, Bobby, don't, Bobby, no. And he just leans against the station like, phew, I think we've got him. And this hand comes out of the side of the frame, picks him up, and it's Papa Jupiter, just a bit toasty. And he's throwing Bobby all around. But Susan Lanier, who plays the sister, picks up a hatchet, which you've seen before. You've seen the hatchet in the camper van. It's not just suddenly arrived out of nowhere. It is part of the stuff that was in the camper van. Picks it up, fucking rams it into his back, like that. And he's like, staggering around. Bobby gets the gun, still got 2 shots. Bang, bang. They've killed Papa Jupiter. Yay! Oh, and just before all that happened, Michael Berryman gets chomped by Beast. The Beast takes him out, rips out his Achilles tendon, and in a rather icky, horrible close-up shot. Excuse me. You see Michael Berryman sitting there crying, and he's going like, and you see him playing with like the shards of his Achilles tendon, and it's going. But Jupiter then runs off, and then you know what happens to Jupiter. Pluto's just crawling around in the dirt. He's going, come here, I'll gut you like I gutted your bitch. Come on, you puke eater. And he's taunting Beast, and Beast comes and gets him and tears his fucking throat out. Bye-bye, Pluto, bye-bye. However, not the end though, is it? No, because you've still got Mars. Yeah, the one with the jagged teeth. When Jupiter has seen what's happened to Pluto, he gets his walkie-talkie and he says like, Mars, kill the baby. Now, above the cave dwelling of the cannibals, or what's left of them now, is Doug and Beast, and they've got one of these walkie-talkies, so they've heard that. So all of a sudden it's like, shit, I've got to get down there and save my baby, my daughter. So he's like, Ruby, get that baby out of here now. So Ruby comes out, and she's got, it's all wrapped up like that. And she goes, wait till I'm away, I don't want to see it. You just give it here, Ruby. And Mars puts it on the table outside, unwraps it, and it's a piglet. He's like, oh, Ruby! Ruby's got the baby, and she's trying to save the baby. So she's run off into the mountains. Doug tries to go and get her. The mother, who I haven't mentioned, the mother sits there the entire time. This is the big fat whore that Jupiter stole from town and raised this bevy, this brood of kids. She's been drinking J&B Scotch throughout the movie. J&B Scotch, which is Kurt Russell as MacReady in The Thing. That's his favourite tipple. But she's drinking it here. And you see that she's got a bit of a sort of blood gash on her head. Like that. Because obviously Ruby's just smacked her with a rock or something. Anyway, then you get the final struggle between Doug and Mars, which runs about throughout the mountains, lots of rocks being thrown at each other, lots of fisticuffs, and Doug tries to hide in a little cave, but he's got himself, there's all rattlesnakes in there. You've got yourself right where they breed, says Mars as he comes up for the attack. But what happens, Ruby tries to distract him, the two of them end up scuffling, the baby's thrown into the mix and all this. Like, Doug finally gets to fight with Mars, but Mars has got the upper hand, he's punching him, he's got his knife, and he's about to stab Doug in the face. But those rattlesnakes, Ruby showing off her tribal instincts and her skills and outdoorsmanship, uses a forked stick, manages to get a rattlesnake up like that, runs up, makes it bite Mars in the back of the neck. Doug then leaps up with a knife and sinks the knife repeatedly into him, and then kicks his body as well. And the film then, as Doug rises up, a civilized man who's had to revert to absolute savagery, the screen goes completely red, and that's a freeze frame, and it's over. The film is over. The Hills of Ice, folks, is a absolute galvanizing super shocker of survivalist horror. It's wonderful. It's ultra low budget, but it belies that with slick direction, fantastic characters, a brilliant rivalry between the civilized family and the cannibal family. They all have love for their own kind. They all have their own style of doing things. The cannibals are just doing what they have to do to survive out there. The civilized family have to revert to their style of tactics just to survive. But their losses have been colossal. And it is just super shock moments. Jupiter plunging through the window and picking up his dad and running off. That is, one hell of a good scare for Halloween. But the film has so much more than that as well. The attack on the camper van, that remains, for me, that's the watershed, that's the zeitgeist. That is a blitzkrieg of escalating tension, fear, and just, you cannot believe what you're looking at. They're not going to go there, are they? They have gone there. Oh my God. And you really feel for these people. I remember watching this on home video with my dad, big kilt papa, a hunter, ex-military like myself, loved weapons, loved, macho stuff. And he said, what would we do in this scenario? And we both agreed, well, we're going to turn the tables and hunt these fuckers down and kill them. And we're going to kill them badly. Because my dad just said, exactly, why people agonize over this moralistic stance? Well, that's because he's not like that. Normal people don't act like that unless they're forced into it. Me and him are different. Oh no. I was going to tell you another story, but I'm not going to go into that because that would not go down too well. Big Kilt Papa, here's to you, sir. And you were right. But again, the gallows humour in this movie. Mars has been stabbed in the thigh, and you see lots of blood spurt out of that, and he ties it up with a tourniquet and all that. And Papa Jupiter says to him, and again this gallows humour, where you got cut, there's a blood pipe as thick as your thumb. Good place to cut somebody. Not so good to get cut there yourself. It's the words of wisdom, from the master, the leader of the pack, the patriarch of this clan. But, they've messed with the wrong people. Of course, this film would then go on to get a sequel, Hills of Ice Part 2, which I'm not going to waste any time talking about because it's utter shit. Somehow or other, he manages to come back. Janice Blythe as Ruby comes back. And you have like a distant cousin, Uncle Grim Reaper, who looks like the British wrestler Giant Haystacks. It's a film where half of it's flashbacks. Even the dog Beast returns and has flashbacks to this movie. It's appalling. And Wes Craven bloody made it as well. He made some classics, but he made some turkeys too. It's the way of the world, isn't it? The film was also remade. Alexandra Aja, who did Switchblade Romance or Haute Tension, did the first remake. And my God, that is... one day I'll cover that, because as remakes go, the remake of Hills of Ice is actually extraordinarily good. Really expands on this, but tells the same story, but really, really gives it extra violence, gumption and gore. But it's well done as well. And even the sequel to it, Hills of Ice Part 2, which is not like the original Hills of Ice Part 2, because this is infinitely better, might be the lesser of the two the remake series, but it's still very, very good and very enjoyable. One day I'll cover those movies. But The Hills of Ice from 1977 remains a high point in Wes Craven's career. Yeah, you've got Nightmare on Elm Street. Yes, you've got Scream and all of that. But this is a powerful film with a lot of symbolism, a lot of social commentary. It's very clever. A great modern day reworking of Sawney Bean and that legend. And it is terrifying. And it's a good survivalist horror. You're interested in this cannibal family. You're totally, on the side of the Carters, the poor beleaguered Carters. But you're interested in these horrible bastards. You want to find out what makes them tick, why they do what they do, how they survive from day to day, living off dogs. What's the matter? Dog ain't good enough for you. I like dog, all right, but she's still spitting it out. This is Ruby, because she's got bigger ideas. She's gonna hightail it out of there. And of course, in Hills of Ice Part 2, you do kind of find out what happened to her afterwards and how she moved on. But no, let's not go there. Let's not do that. You've been listening in the background here to Don Peake's score for this movie. Very unsettling, very strange, unnerving. A fair bit of 70s warbling synth, but a lot of tribal percussion and ethnic instrumentation as well. Don Peake worked with Wrecking Crew and many other people. He also scored The People Under Stairs for... In fact, that's him speaking right now. He also scored The People Under Stairs for Wes Craven. But listen to this. It's edgy. It's designed to make you set your teeth on edge. I love it. I think it's a great score. Very, very unsettling. So there you go, Paul. That was your one good scare for Halloween. And I know you've since seen the movie several times, and you do hail it as a great film, a great horror movie. But I totally understand why that opening shocking scene, plunge through the window, really worked for you. And your heart took a long time for your heart to recover. Because I watched it only very recently after we spoke about it. And my God, yeah, I still jumped, and I knew the exact second it was going to happen. It's so well done. You've got the spooky legend of what happened. Old Fred's telling it. Grizzled old Fred, his ratchety old voice. He always tore poor Martha in half, long enough for a monster boy to become a monster man. He's great. He's a great little character. And then to see him go the way he does, you're like, shit. But, do you always try to stop trespassers by hanging yourself? Wonderful. Folks, there you go. The Hills of Ice from 1977. Wes Craven, who are going to bigger, bigger, bigger things. So, there's plenty more to come. I know I started this full of gumption and gusto, but of course, real life keeps getting in the way, and I wanted to be barreling through these. Well, the weekend is looming, and I promise you there's going to be a whole load of these, good scares for Halloween. A lot of people have put their stuff forward, and I'm going to go through them. I'm going to go through them, so fear not, or fear plenty. Folks, I have been and always shall be Kilt-Man at your services. So please keep it kilted, keep it Celtic, and just watch out when you're travelling across the desert. This whole thing about city folk venturing into the rural areas. It's not just America or Australia, Wolf Creek, England as well, and Britain. You go out in the countryside, look at American Werewolf. You made me miss. I've never missed that boat before. Stick to the road. Stick to the road. Stick to the road. Beware the moon. So yeah, plenty more to come, folks. I'm going to see you all later. Just put that baby in the cooking pot. Yeah, we'll stew it up later. Oh,